Well, this week, our deep dive takes us straight to uh, a major global story, the passing of Pope Francis. He died on Monday, aged 88.
Yes. The reports indicate it was a stroke and subsequent heart failure.
Such significant news. And the Vatican, they moved quickly with the details, didn't they?
They did, as you'd expect. Just yesterday, they announced the funeral plans. It's set for this Saturday, 10 a.m. Rome time.
Oh, okay, 10 a.m. Rome time, which is what, 4 a.m. Eastern here in the U.S., a very early start for some folks.
A very early start indeed. But,
Yeah.
given the global nature of the church, it makes sense.
Absolutely. And the preparations, they were already underway before that formal announcement, right? I saw something about a procession today, Wednesday.
That's correct. This morning, the Pope's coffin was moved from his residence, the Casa Santa Marta, over to St. Peter's Basilica.
With the cardinals accompanying.
Yes, exactly. It's a really significant ritual step. It marks the transition from the private space where he lived to the very public space of the basilica.
Where he'll lie in state now, is that right? So people can pay their respects.
Precisely. And connected to that, the Vatican also released the first images, even some video, of Pope Francis in his coffin.
Yeah, I saw those. Quite striking. He's wearing the red robe, the papal mitre, that tall hat, and holding a rosary.
Mm-hmm. It's very direct, very visual. It serves partly to inform everyone, obviously, but it also adheres to these very old traditions. That red robe, for instance, it has deep symbolism.
Symbolism connecting back to martyrdom, papal authority.
Yes, and often historically linked to the blood of early Christian martyrs. It reinforces that sense of continuity.
And there was also a formal service, wasn't there? Something called the confirmation of the Pope's death.
That's right, attended by cardinals, key officials. It's a necessary step, sort of a formal verification within the Church's own legal and liturgical framework,
Makes sense. And the images showed the Swiss guards there, too, standing by his side.
even in death. It's a powerful symbol of their duty to protect the papacy, a duty that, extends beyond life itself.
The reports described his passing as discreet, almost sudden, without long suffering. That paints a picture of a peaceful end, wouldn't you say?
It does seem intended to offer some reassurance, emphasizing a lack of long illness. It allows the focus to shift more easily to remembrance and the transition ahead.
Now, there's an interim administrator, Cardinal Kevin Farrell. He's going to play a key role in the funeral.
Yes, Cardinal Farrell. He's the Camerlengo of the Holy Roman Church. It's a title you might not hear often, but it's crucial during this period, the sede vacante, when the papal seat is empty.
So he manages the day-to-day at the Vatican for now.
Essentially, yes. And he's central in the preparations leading up to the election of the next pope.
Okay, so Pope Francis lies in state from today, Wednesday, at St. Peter's, and then the funeral mass on Saturday that's celebrated by the Dean of the College of Cardinals.
Giovanni Battista Re, yes,
Yeah.
that's the tradition. The dean leads the mass during this period of vacancy. The whole process is very structured.
3 phases, I read: preparing the body, the viewing, and then the burial.
Exactly. It's a protocol honed over centuries, ensuring everything is handled with reverence, according to tradition.
Okay, let's talk about the funeral itself. Who's expected to attend? It sounds like a huge gathering.
Oh, absolutely. You'll have, of course, church leaders from everywhere, patriarchs, cardinals, bishops,
The whole hierarchy.
pretty much, but also a really significant number of world leaders and dignitaries.
Yeah.
It's a major international event.
Really underscores the Pope's global influence, doesn't it?
It really does. Not just as a spiritual leader for over 1 billion Catholics, but as a figure on the world stage.
The reports mention President Trump and Melania Trump attending.
Yes, they're confirmed. Along with President Zelensky from Ukraine, President Macron from France.
Wow. Italy's Prime Minister Meloni, the UK's Keir Starmer, Germany's Olaf Scholz. Quite the list.
It speaks volumes about the respect afforded to the papacy, even from non-Catholic leaders. The Pope is often seen as, a voice for peace.
And royalty, too. King Philippe and Queen Mathilde of Belgium.
King Felipe and Queen Letizia of Spain.
And Prince William, representing King Charles III. Didn't King Charles meet Pope Francis fairly recently?
He did, yes. That meeting highlighted that ongoing effort towards interfaith dialogue and cooperation. The royal presence just adds another layer of historical significance.
Now, one notable absence mentioned is Russia's President Putin.
Right. That's linked to the International Criminal Court arrest warrant against him.
A stark reminder of geopolitics, even in this context.
It is. The warrant really restricts his international travel. Vatican City is independent, but its relationship with Italy, an ICC member, makes it complex, so his absence is significant.
But we do have confirmations from Brazil President Lula da Silva
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
and Argentina's President Javier Milei. From the Pope's home country, of course.
It's truly a global representation. Interestingly, China hasn't yet announced its representation.
That's always closely watched, isn't it? Their decision could signal something about their relationship with the Vatican.
Potentially, yes. It's a complex relationship, as we know.
So, after the funeral mass on Saturday, what happens next? The burial. I read something surprising about the location.
That's right. It's quite unusual. He won't be buried within St. Peter's Basilica itself, where many recent popes are.
Where then?
His coffin will be taken to the Basilica of St. Mary Major, another major basilica in Rome, but it's actually outside the Vatican walls, about 4 miles away, I think.
Outside the Vatican? That feels like a departure. Why there?
It was apparently his personal preference. The reports mention he often prayed there, especially before and after his international trips. It clearly held a special significance for him.
That's fascinating. Maybe a final statement. Humility, perhaps. A connection to the wider city, not just the Vatican.
It could certainly be interpreted that way. A reflection of his personal devotion to Mary, perhaps, but also maybe, as you say, a desire for a slightly more modest, less central final resting place.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you think about his papacy.
It really does. Okay, so funeral, burial. But the big question now is, what happens next in terms of leadership? The papal conclave.
Right, the conclave. This is the process to elect the next pope.
How does that work? Can you walk us through it?
Sure. It has to happen between 15 and 20 days after the pope's death.
Why that time frame?
Well, it allows for a period of mourning, but critically, it gives time for all the cardinal electors to get to Rome.
Cardinal electors, those are the ones under 80 years old.
Exactly. Right now, there are about 135 of them spread all over the world. They need time to travel.
And once they're all there, they gather in the Sistine Chapel, and they're essentially locked in.
That's the famous part, yes. Conclave with key. They're sealed off from the outside world. No phones, no internet, no external influence.
To ensure they can focus entirely on the election.
Precisely. The idea is to foster an atmosphere of prayer and discernment, free from pressure, as they choose the next leader for the church. It's a blend of ancient tradition and trying to address modern challenges.
Before they get locked in, though, there are meetings, right? I think there was one on Tuesday.
Yes, those initial meetings are crucial. They're called general congregations. This is where the cardinals start discussing the state of the church, the big issues.
And what kind of leader they think is needed now.
Exactly. John Allen at Crux described it well. They give these sort of programmatic talks. It's not campaigning like we might think of it.
More subtle, reading between the lines.
Very much so. You're assessing potential candidates based on their past actions, their theology, their perceived leadership qualities, all within these discussions about the church's direction. It's quite opaque from the outside.
And then the voting starts inside the Sistine Chapel. Secret ballots.
Yes, secret ballots.
Yeah.
And they need a specific majority to elect someone.
2/3 plus 1, I think.
That's the threshold. It's deliberately high to ensure a broad consensus, a real sense of unity behind the choice. It's arguably the most important decision they make.
And then the smoke signals, that iconic image.
After each ballot or pair of ballots, they burn them. If no one reaches the majority, they add something to make the smoke black.
Signaling no pope yet.
Right. But when they do elect someone, and he accepts, the ballots are burned clean, producing that famous white smoke.
Abemus papam. We have a pope.
Exactly. That white smoke tells the waiting world and millions watching that a new chapter has begun.
So just to recap then, we've covered the news of Pope Francis's passing, the funeral details for Saturday, the lying in state, the dignitaries attending.
The rather unusual burial choice at St. Mary Major.
Right. And then this whole intricate, fascinating process of the conclave to choose his successor.
It's a moment packed with history, tradition, and immense significance for Catholics worldwide. These rituals aren't just formalities, they carry deep meaning.
And that burial voice, it really does stick with you. It prompts reflection on his legacy, maybe that desire for humility, connection beyond the Vatican walls.
It certainly invites contemplation about his papacy and perhaps what kind of subtle message he intended to leave.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, you really feel the weight of this historical moment, don't you? The church mourns, but it also prepares for the future.
A future with a new leader, facing undoubtedly complex challenges in our modern world.
It leaves us with some big questions to ponder, doesn't it? What qualities will the cardinals prioritize? What direction will the next pope steer the church in? Definitely something for all of us to think about as this unfolds.